Hello everyone, this is Tom in Los Angeles. It's Friday and I have a little bit of time, so I decided to try and catch up a little bit on my tag videos. I was lucky enough to be tagged by Jordan Parsons. Jordan has a really cool channel. He's a little bit like me, a relatively recent booktuber, and I think he started maybe a month or two after I did. He has great taste in his reading, in my opinion, and with a particular love for classics, I would say, if I understand correctly, and always very witty thoughts and insightful comments on his channel. So he tagged me for the spoilers tag, which is an interesting tag. It's kind of I know I'm coming when the party is already over, everybody's gone home, and there are a couple of drunk people on the floor. But hopefully this is still interesting, and it's a very conversational tag video, so it should be really brief. I like the prompts. So here we go. The first one is, what do you consider a spoiler? I am very sensitive about spoilers in some cases, especially when it comes to fiction that is very plot driven. So that's something that, in listening to other booktubers who did this tag, I think we are very similar on the same line here, on the same page. The definition of a spoiler is a little bit subjective, so that's I think the sense of the question. And what I personally consider a spoiler is something that influences me to look, especially in fiction, if only in fiction, to look at a particular character or aspect of the story with a point of view of somebody who knows parts of the plot. So I'm really thinking of a spoiler in the sense of something that has to do with the plot, with the narrative mechanism, the plotting, that I would prefer not to know before finding out by myself. Second question, does the genre you're reading affect what you consider to be a spoiler? It's, I mean, I do read a lot of non-fiction. I read a lot of, I enjoy reading history, but even sometimes I've read some scientific books of popular science. For example, Isaac Asimov published a lot of those in his times, and they were so readable and entertaining. And yeah, there's no spoiler there, right? Even in a history book, or maybe a book that talks about economy, politics. So yeah, in that sense, the genre certainly affect my reading. Number 3, all the best bits are in the trailer. Sometimes a synopsis can be too detailed. Do you research books prior to reading or prefer to go in blind? I do both. I really love to do both. I've gone to extremes. So I would say on one extreme, I've fallen in love with a book cover. It's true, I'm very visual, so sometimes I see a cover that I love, and I decide, I make the conscious, irrational decision of not even knowing what the book is about and then reading it. Has it ever paid off? Not really. The last one I remember that I did that was, I'm not gonna mention the book because it's gonna be too... Actually, yeah, let's mention the book now that I think about it. There's no damage in doing that. It's this Z or Z, depending on where you read it from, science fiction. I fell in love with this cover for some reason, and once I read it, I kept reading it, hoping that it would get better and better, and trying to invent reasons to like it, but it didn't work out. On the other extreme, I have researched books very deeply before starting to read them. One example is a book by Gene Wolfe. And Gene Wolfe, sometimes I think, would deserve that type of research before his books, because they are famously difficult. They are built in a way that many people, many fans of Gene Wolfe, he writes mainly fantasy and science fiction, but his genre is difficult to categorize. And I personally think he's a genius, by the way. He was such a fantastic writer. I still am reading some of his work. People who love him, his fans, say that you don't read Gene Wolfe, but you reread Gene Wolfe because of the things that necessarily you miss in the first read. That's how complicated it is. But obviously the pleasure is not in how difficult the book is. The pleasure is that his books are have different layers, so are polysemic in a certain way, but they work because the first time you read them, even if there are some things that you miss, the surface level still works. It's written so well that you still enjoy the narrative and everything. Then maybe the second time you get deeper things that you hadn't understood the first time. So that's the opposite. In some cases I've been really researching his novels before diving into. Number 4, sometimes the introduction or translator's notes can spoil the ending. Oh yeah, especially for classics. Has this ever happened to you? Yeah, even on Italian books, I found that a lot. Sometimes it might be just because of the translator, or maybe sometimes it's because celebrity in the publishing world in Italy, let's say, is called or is paid to write an introduction to a book, and this introduction, maybe they don't know that it's gonna go in front of the book. Maybe they write it for a magazine, or they write it for a newspaper, or maybe they don't care and they just spoil the plot in their introduction. That happened to me a lot, and it's really, really annoying. I'm still speaking about fictional books. Name a time somebody spoiled a novel for you. I think my brother did, as some type of funny prank. It wasn't very funny. Many, many years ago. Have you ever spoiled a novel for somebody else? No, I don't think. Maybe to my brother as a retaliation. Number 7, if spoilers ruin novels, are there some authors, genres that you cannot reread? I don't think so. I don't think there are any books that I cannot reread. It's rereading is a pleasure in itself. No matter if you enjoy the book because of the plot or for other reasons, it's something that I do in any case. Number 8, when reviewing, are you spoiler free? Does this limit you a bit? Oh yeah, I am very, very careful about this. I've been on Goodreads for a long time, relatively long time, maybe 10 years or so, and I've always been very, very careful about the little button that you need to select whenever you have some spoilers in your review. And in a very polite way, whenever I am reading reviews of books on Goodreads that are spoiling the books, but the button was not selected, I try to be as diplomatic as possible, but I will comment if I can and say, hey, please, can you, you spoil it for me, but please can you select the spoiler button so that you're not going to spoil it for somebody else. And then I'm going to include some channels below that I'm going to tag, including 2 very new ones that I'd like to recommend or suggest. So thank you, Jordan, very much for tagging me, and thanks for watching.